Hey, what's up? Thanks for watching. Today we have my good friend Erik Audé, who's a professional poker player, among many other things, and he took probably the most insane route to get to be a poker player, including a stint on death row. Erik, thanks for joining us, buddy.
Thanks for having me. Once again, I apologize for being in my car, but I live in the country now, and this is the only place I could find some decent reception. I had to drive literally about 30 minutes to find enough bars on my phone to be able to even do this interview. So thanks
Wow.
for having me.
Oh man. Well, dude, thanks for driving like way out in the country. How did you get to the country? The last time I saw you, you were running these awesome celebrity ridden poker games in your house in Los Angeles, and now you're in the country and you got to drive 30 minutes for cell phone service. Let's get the backstory real quick.
I mean, well, yeah, I ran games for 15 plus years in LA. Had Once COVID hit, the very, very last game that I ran was March 12th. And I remember very clearly because I was working on the show Made for Love. So the game was running itself, and they kicked it. They let everyone go home early on set because that's when the news was starting to really scare everyone about how we're all going to die soon. And it was raining that day. We were filming in Northridge at this house, and they had us all crammed in there for a Mark's walking rehearsal. And there was like 60 people crammed into a double living room. And people started sneezing. You could tell people were uncomfortable. People were trying to get away from each other. It was, I mean, it was the early days. So we were all looking at each other like, all right, who's got it? One of you
Who's
got it.
dying? Who's dying
But also
first?
it was like, but also it was flu season, and it was just bad weather. And then finally, it's like, I guess it was the AD. Like, fuck this. Everyone go home. Good luck.
Like, we're out. Peace. So
Uh,
that's we met and hung out a bunch playing poker at your house. What how did you get into poker? I mean, I know the backstory here, but it's such a crazy fucking story, man. Like, it start from the very beginning.
the very beginning.
Yeah, like
Uh,
you're swimming
how
around in
I
dad's
play.
balls. Not quite that far back, but maybe we'll skip forward to the time where you're going to Pakistan, right?
Yeah, I learned how to play poker on death row in Pakistan. Yeah,
Jeez.
yeah. My friend Murad taught me how to play poker. I have two documentaries about my life. The one documentary I tell everyone to watch is 3 Years in Pakistan, the Erik Audé story. You can watch it on Amazon Prime for free. It's on Vimeo, YouTube Red. There's a bunch of platforms for it, but there's free platforms for it. And bottom line, I was arrested for unknowingly smuggling narcotics for a very good friend of mine. And when people hear drugs and jail, they automatically assume you're guilty. But in my situation, I'm just a gullible idiot who was taken advantage of by a very good friend of mine when I was a kid.
How
And
old were you?
I found well, when I was arrested, I was 21. I just turned 21. But when I started working for him, I was 19.
And you were in
And
Pakistan when this happened.
I was in Pakistan when this happened. It was right after 9/11, before, during, and after
What the
the
fuck were you
Afghan.
doing in that part of the world right after 9/11? You might have been the only one over there. Did you not have enough energy, like not enough stimulation around the house? Holy shit.
Well, no, I was working as a full time. By that time, I was working as a full time actor stuntman, and
Okay.
the job wasn't supposed to be mine. It was supposed to be my brother Peter's. And originally, the trips were to Turkey. They were never to Pakistan. I knew nothing about any trips going to Pakistan. So I encouraged these trips to all my friends, my family, my brother. And originally, I mean, I just assumed they were always going to be to Turkey. And about 10 days before my brother was supposed to go, I get a call from my buddy saying, "Hey, your brother says he's not going. It makes me look bad." So I contact my brother and I ask him what's going on. He goes, "Yeah, I'm not going." I'm like, "Okay, why aren't you going?" He says, "Because it's to Pakistan." I said, "What are you talking about? It's to Turkey, you retard." But no, he was right. It was to Pakistan. Ray had changed the trip to go to Pakistan. And now I can vouch for Pakistan. So I contact Ray to see what's going on. He says, "Hey, look, because of what's going on in Afghanistan, I'm getting a really good deal." And I'm like, "Well, then you can FedEx it all back." He's like, "No, no, no, no. It's going to be fine." He was a good car salesman, basically. And he was a very
That's
good
a
friend of mine
that's a
at the time.
tough sell though. Like,
And
hey, just think of how beneficial this has been for me now that we're at war with Afghanistan. I've got a great deal on a hotel in Pakistan.
well, he was saying like it's like saying I don't know. He was saying like it's in Afghanistan. It's a different country. That was one of the conversations. I was
Sure.
like, that's like saying East LA in Mexico. It's not a big difference. But bottom line, I felt obligated to, because I vouched for my brother. I didn't want to let my friend Ray down either. And so I took the trip in place of my brothers to not let my friend down. And that's where I found out the hard way that we were all being used to smuggle narcotics illegally. Everyone says after the fact, "Oh, of course it was narcotics related. But then I'll ask them simple questions like, have you ever helped a family member or a friend move? And they're like, well, yeah. And I go, did you go through all their stuff? They're like, no. I'm like, how do you know you weren't smuggling narcotics? Well, that's good. That's my friend. I went, yeah, exactly.
Jeez.
You know, it's easy to assume the worst about someone after you know the facts, you know, but when you don't know, it's like a magician who's like saying, look at this hand while they're taking your watch and wallet with the other hand. It's all about, you know, bottom line, by keeping me in the dark, making me think that I was working for a legit leather courier company, importing expensive leather samples back into the U.S. to beat the import tax. It completely kept my attention off of anything else. And
you're working for a friend. You're not thinking like, which one of my friends is going to stick it up my ass? I mean, you're thinking about like, hey, I can make a few bucks. This sounds like a legitimate opportunity. So you're in. That's crazy. So you're in Pakistan. Like what was your thought process? Like you're just going, what was the job supposed to be? You're supposed to get some jackets and just bring them back over here to help make a few extra bucks hustling.
Well, for me, the trip was the payment, bottom line. I mean, obviously this is supposed to be my brother's trip. So it was mostly me just, not wanting to screw my friend over because my brother didn't have the balls to go. And I'm glad he didn't have the balls to go. But the payment was only $800, so I was losing money regardless. I had, even after I accepted the trip, I booked a guest star on the show Arliss, and that would have paid $5K. So for me, when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. I don't like leaving people hanging. My word means a lot to me. It always has. These jackets were worth anywhere from $25,000 to $30,000 worth of, is what we were told. So by bringing it back into the U.S. and claiming it as our own, we were beating the 55% import tax. So he essentially was saving, $16,000 on the import tax. We got a free trip. We got $800 spending money, and at the time, when I first started working for him, I'd never been outside the country. So to be able to go outside the country on someone else's nickel and get paid for it was amazing. And people, I mean, there's people who don't even leave their own city, little less their own state. For me to be able to travel to the other side of the world and experience,
you're like, hey, free vacation. I get to help out my buddy. I'm going overseas. I'm just gonna have, this is a cool experience. Anybody would go. And then
I still travel. I love traveling.
You pick up some jackets, and then what happened? How did you actually get pinched and go, wait, what? This sucks.
Yeah, well, at the airport, it was early. I couldn't wait to get out of Pakistan. Pakistan sucked. Nothing he said that would happen happened, because Turkey is also a Muslim country, but Turkey's beautiful. It's amazing. There's beautiful women there. There's a lot of things to see. Pakistan is just like a dirt lot. Everyone just looks pissed off at you if you think, I don't know, they don't like the way you look. Like, Pakistan is not diverse. There's not other nationalities there that you see, and if they are there, they keep to themselves and they move quick. The food was ridiculously hot. I got sick my first night there from drinking water that was at one of the little restaurants that I was at, and man, I paid for that hard. I got that following, I couldn't eat anything solid until that following Thursday, and then I started ordering nothing but Sprites from the hotel kitchen, and those guys were overcharging me too. So I was literally counting the minutes until I can get the fuck out of that country. And then Friday rolls around and Ray's contacts show up, and they're like, hey, it's all the stuff's in the cab. I'm like, you got to bring it up. I'm supposed to go through it. I'm supposed to rank it all. So it's just one suitcase. And they open up the suitcase, and I'm going through everything. And I was happy that it was only one suitcase, but it didn't feel right, because normally I'd have two suitcases. My shoulders would be way down, and this shit would be so heavy that I have to actually spend money because it was too heavy to bring on the airplane. So I call Ray and I go, hey, there's only one suitcase, man. Is that right? And he's like, yeah, it's because it's the first trip. We're just seeing how it goes. So all of a sudden I'm happy, because I don't have to lug around two suitcases.
So far, your story works if if you just took the word leather coats out and put in the word kilos of cocaine, as a word change, you're doing the exact same process, but you're getting screwed by this goofball. So, okay, go ahead.
Well, here's the thing. Had I brought another suitcase and then transferred all the jackets from that suitcase to the next suitcase, I would have easily been able to figure out some shit was wrong when the guy lost his mind that, hey, this isn't the suitcase. I'm like, yeah,
so the suitcase was where everything was at, not the jackets.
It was, yeah. You empty the suitcase, it's a completely suitcase.
Did it have a false bottom, or how did it work?
No, it was it was so thin. It was paper thin. Uh-huh. And so it was built professionally into the walls of the suitcase, both sides. And I'm only assuming this because I never actually saw it, because the suitcase was taken to another room at the airport. when they brought it back, like a guard came followed by another guard holding these two things. And the first thing I thought about for some reason was newspapers, because that was so thin. It felt, I don't know, even though it wasn't newspapers. And the guy goes, "What is this?" And I go, the way he said it was like, "What is this?" And I said, "He's holding it." Like, meaning he should be the one to tell you. He's the one holding it. Like, I have no idea. He goes, "This is all film." And the second he said that, I'm like, "Why are you showing me this?" And he says, "It came out of your suitcase." And I knew right then and there I was fucked. Like,
So it's
literally,
opium?
Like, yeah.
Opium.
And,
like how much opium did they actually pull out of the suitcase?
3.6 kg is what I was charged with.
What's like opium? What was the street value of that? Any idea what you've like heard before? I have no idea. Is that like $8, $8 million? No idea. We need an opium expert to leave a comment in the comment section.
I only know what they've written in the newspapers, and the newspapers in America aren't very accurate. So they over. I don't know. I'm not a drug dealer. I don't know.
That's good that you don't have like the number right off the top of your head. Oh, well, if it's this opium was going for, 73,000 a kilo. It's great that you didn't know that. Sure.
I'm sure people told me, but I've never, held on to it because I've never needed to know it.
So some guy comes out of the back with a suitcase and he's like, "Yo, this is opium." And what was your first thought?
First thought is I got fucked. My first thought, I said something that you never want to say. And I said, "I need to speak with the American embassy." And the embassy said, and the guy goes, "Embassy can't help you. We're hanging you after 5 o'clock prayer." And the second he said that, I was like, all right, well, if I'm going to die, I'm going to make my life worth it. So I turned it into my own action movie. That day they said I tried to escape. I wasn't trying to escape. I was just simply trying to find a phone. I found a phone and I couldn't call out. I was trying to call my manager. I remember I was trying to call my manager, Richard Castleberry, because that guy always said, "If you're in trouble, you call me first." And so I was trying to call my manager, and all I wanted to do was tell him to warn everyone else, because I wasn't the only one making these trips. There were a lot of people making these trips from that gym. So, if I'm going to die, at least make my life worth something, is how I was thinking. I was like, I wanted to warn everyone else. These fucking aren't trips. We're all being used to smuggle narcotics. So I barricaded myself in an office down the hallway at the airport, and then a shit show. It was just a guy shot up a whole hallway. I threw all the desks and all the files in front of the door.
He was shooting up the hallway trying to shoot you.
Yeah, but there was other people in the hallway too, which is what's crazy. The hallway wasn't empty. The hallway was packed. So I hear all this gunfire. Everyone hits the ground. I mean, I'm assuming he shot it in the air. I don't know, because I wasn't looking. I was running. And that's what made me just barricade myself in the nearest office.
Dude, that's gotta be terrifying. Were you at the airport by yourself at this point, or did you have a group of you with you? You're by yourself.
No,
so you're by yourself in Pakistan. Hearing, "Hey, you're gonna get hung in a few hours, and by the way, we're gonna go shoot you now too." Like running down a hallway. That's gotta be fucking. I got to that room and I've defecated myself 4 times minimum by that point.
I was scared, man. It was ridiculous what was happening. I didn't come out of the room until the DEA came. The DEA came and got me out of the room.
They had U.S. DEA already in Pakistan that they got to get you out.
Well, yeah, you know who funds the anti-narcotics force and the ANF in Pakistan is the U.S. The U.S. So yeah, we have DEA everywhere. We're the ones who fund. The rest of the world doesn't really give a shit about narcotics. It's the U.S. is like, we'll pay for you to make sure that we can stem the tide of narcotics. So all these other organizations and anti-narcotics forces pop up because of the U.S. mostly. And that's why you can go like do drugs in Amsterdam like it's nothing. Well, then you got countries like Singapore who's like, they'll shoot you in the back of the head for, I think, 100 grams of anything that's illegal.
Singapore is crazy. I actually traveled to Singapore for work, and I had a prescription at the time for Adderall I was prescribed, and I was so like timid that I was like, man, did I fill out the right form the right way, but bring in 30 pills or whatever it was at the time that I was prescribed. And I was like, man, fuck this. I left it on the airplane. I wasn't taking any chances, man. I just read an article on the way over. Some model
around in Singapore, man.
Yeah, some model had like 2 pills of ecstasy on her, and she was going to get the death penalty for 2 pills of ecstasy. Crazy shit. That became like a huge international incident. But back to, so you're by yourself. Was seeing the DEA show up, was that some level of like, okay, that's American, I feel a little more comfortable, or did you think they were fucking with you?
No, I was like, the second I saw DEA, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to give them the information. They're going to go arrest Ray.
Oh, you felt like you were safe.
Yes, because everyone else that was making these, I wasn't the only one making these trips. I was not even close. There were so many people making these trips that other people would be like, yeah, we made these trips. We didn't know. And so like all I had to do was contact my family because I let everyone know about these trips. I was proud of these trips. I thought it was cool. And I tried to share these opportunities with all my friends.
Right.
Hell, my own mother, I tried to get her to go on a trip. My own fucking mother.
You're probably not bragging about doing drug runs unless you're a complete idiot, which would obviously make sense.
Exactly. I'm not telling anyone shit if I'm a drug smuggler. Also, I'm working all the time as a fucking actor and stuntman. You know, my dreams were exploding at the time. I wasn't hurting for money. I had everything going for me. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. God damn it. I had everything going for me at the time too. I just booked a pilot called 360. I was going to play this douchebag race car driver. It was perfect for me. I had a movie around the corner. I just finished the movie The Scorpion King. I was recurring on 4 different TV shows. I had so much shit going for me, man.
So this DEA agent shows up because your friend pulled some shit. So this DEA agent shows up. What does he say? What's your 3 DEA agents showed up?
Yeah. And they basically they wanted me to open the door first, and I didn't want to open the door. They said, "Hey, you want to speak to an American?" And I was like, "You're from the embassy?" They said DEA, and I said, I remember I said, "What state are you from?" And the guy said Texas, and I'm like, everyone knows Texas. And I said,
"That's smart." I said, quizzing him.
I said, "Who's your favorite football team?" He said Dallas, and I was like,
might not be good enough. Everyone knows Dallas too, though.
No, but actually, he said Cowboys, and I said, okay. Dallas, they suck, you know. He's like, you want to come out and talk to us? And I'm trying to tell him through the door. He's like, it'd be a lot easier if you could see us. So I open the door, and there's all these guns on me, and then he's like, look, don't try to run. You can tell us what's up. We can't help you unless you come out. I was like, no, I want to talk to you guys. Like, and they showed me their badges. So they brought me to a different part of the airport, like an office, and then 3 DEA agents were in there in the office, and the guy whose office I believe it was just sitting at the office, but he was quiet, a Pakistani dude. And all of a sudden, these 3 dudes just start to bombard me with questions. And the second I'm through this becomes an interrogation, not a, hey, can we help you?
At any point, did you think about asking for an attorney? And how would that have worked? I guess you're a U.S. citizen.
No, I wanted the guy. No, fuck no, because I wanted these guys to know right away that it's fucking Ray.
Right.
You need to get that cocksucker. Hell no, I wasn't asking for an attorney.
Okay. You thought that you can get out of this by just telling them the truth.
Yes, sure. I thought if I could go and get Ray, and also I said, call my mom, she'll vouch for everything. And these guys start just bombarding me with questions. I'm halfway through an answer. This guy asked me a question. I'm halfway through another answer. This guy asked me a question. And real quickly, I start to realize these guys don't believe a fucking word out of my mouth. Like this guy goes, hey, man, are you a user? What's going on? I'm a big gym rat at the time. I was maxing I was repping 405, maxing at 420. And these bastards are like, come on, everyone does drugs. I'm like, no, just you, and this guy's like, where were you going after this? I was like, well, I was going to Sweden. And they're like, well, and he started naming all these like different countries that are like drug runs. I'm like, why don't you name the only 2 that aren't drug runs? Like, so I realized right away, these guys thought I was full of shit, completely full of shit. So I said, okay, contact my mom, contact the gym. Other people are making these trips. At least try to warn them, because other people are making these trips. All the information I gave them was 100% accurate. And they said, don't worry, we're going to go through all your stuff. But they didn't like me either, because they didn't like my attitude. The guy's like, why are you so scared, huh? I was like, maybe because that asshole told me they're going to fucking hang me at 5 o'clock prayer, and I got shot at and all this bullshit. DEA agents are cocksuckers, all right? I know I'm a kid. You think the good guys are there, they're going to help you. No, I learned at a very young age, the fucking U.S. government doesn't give a shit about us. Like, they don't give a shit about us. If you're ever arrested in another country, do not waste your one phone call in the embassy. I'm serious. Order food, order a pizza, because you will not get fed during interrogation. Now, I've been arrested in 4 different countries now. Now, only once was for drug smuggling that I didn't even know of. But I was arrested for climbing the pyramids in Egypt. I was arrested in Mexico for getting in a fight at a bar because our stupid friend was hitting on a girl that some other guy was hitting on. So our friends had to fight their friends. We all got arrested. It's been a fun weekend in TJ. But never once did I call the fucking U.S. Embassy, because they're idiots, all right? Just order food. I ordered food in Japan. I ordered food in Egypt, and I ordered food in Tijuana. At least that way you get some food to eat. Anyways, DEA doesn't fucking help me. they leave, and the second they leave, I get nailed with a gun. Don't get knocked unconscious, but that shit stings. I'm hurt. I get brought to a police station. They throw me in a cell with some people that don't like me. The second that someone says, "What country?" and I'm like, "America," like an idiot, because at the time I thought people like America. No, no one likes America.
So did the DEA still have custody of you at this point, and were you under their
No,
jurisdiction or local jurisdiction? They never took you.
They just wanted to know where I bought the drugs from, where everyone is, and I was like, I didn't buy the drugs. They wanted to know addresses and everything else. They're calling me a liar. I gave them Ray's information. I gave them the guy whose contacts that I was met in Pakistan's information that I knew, which were only cell phones. I gave them the names of everyone at the gym, my family, but they did nothing for me.
Did you expect at some point you were going to talk to an American attorney, or that they would have DEA come back to talk to you, or you just were like, I'm now in a Pakistani prison, I guess, at that point, or jail?
I just wanted to speak to somebody. No, I wanted to speak to someone from the American embassy so that they can get a hold of my family, so that they can vouch basically everything I'm saying. That night at the police lockup, they had to put me in another cell by myself because I already got in a fight in the cell with a bunch of old dudes. Like these, man, Pakistanis are like gremlins, man. They'll surround you hard, but they're weak as shit, thank God. So they put me in another cell, and that night, this girl from the embassy comes. Her name was Christy Adore, and she shows up. And now I'm thinking, all right, cool, I'm gonna be out of here soon. I give her the information I tell her everything, tell her the story. She brought me a Coke and a pizza, like a very small pizza, which I'm thankful for, because that'd be the last food I got for several days. She said that what's going to happen is they're going to take me to the courts to decide how long a physical remand to give me. And I'm like, what's physical remand? And she says, it's basically, they figure they can, if you're not going to give them the truth, they can beat it out of you. Physical remand in Pakistan is torture, and it's legal. That's what they do.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, this is just a story that's just getting better and better. The previous week I was filming the Andy Dick show. Now I'm in jail in Pakistan about to get tortured. Yeah. She said that she would come back the following week.
To be totally honest, filming the Andy Dick show is probably a close runner-up to that torture.
Yeah. I don't know. Dave Grohl was on our episode. It was cool to hang out with that guy.
So you find out you're about to get tortured.
Yeah. Well, she said she'll be back like that following Monday. It was a Friday. I don't want to confuse anything, okay? Because this is 20 years ago. So it was a Friday, and they said she'll be back that Monday. But she came back a couple hours later because she did contact my mom, and my mom's story was matching mine. So she was like, okay, wow, all right, well, this guy might actually be just getting screwed over.
Your mom has some clout, right? Like she's in the government, or was a senator, or has some respectable position. Right. She had some respectable position in the government, right? Or is there some relative?
No,
I mishear that totally.
She was a sheriff for a little bit.
She was what?
She was a sheriff for a little bit.
Oh, okay.
She owned a casting agency, and she did she worked on a couple movies, like bigger movies, like Planet of the Apes and the Hulk, the original Hulk. But she, so she knew a lot of people, because when you're in the entertainment industry, everyone from every walk of life wants to maybe take a dabble at becoming an actor. So you meet a lot of people. So she knew a lot of people, and she, like people in law enforcement and in government. So she had connections as far as like people she could reach out to see maybe if they can help or not. Bottom line, this lady believed me. This lady from the embassy believed me. So she came back. An attorney came that night, but we didn't go with them, because the second these attorneys heard there's an American in jail, they started pouncing. I'm talking ambulance chasing galore.
Are these Pakistani attorneys, or attorneys that were like U.S. speakers, or?
No, there's like, not that I'm aware of. There's no U.S. Pakistani attorney. It's just Pakistani attorneys.
Okay.
Now, granted, I'm the only American arrested in this whole country, so there's not a big. Most Americans, believe it or not, are a lot wiser than I am, and so they avoid going to Pakistan. I, on the other hand, am adventurous and believe everything, and just I'm whatever. I'm a whatever. If had I known what was happening, I would never have gone on the trip. But by keeping me in the dark, it completely left me at I don't know, at the laws of life, because had I at least, if I was a criminal and had I at least known what was happening, Pakistan's the perfect country to smuggle drugs out of, because all you got to do is give like the customs guy $20. He'll like, oh, I don't give a shit. You could like, smuggle my own mother through.
You can kill a child in front of me for another 20. I just don't care. So like,
you know what?
So all these attorneys
could happen, actually.
Oh my
that
God.
could happen. You can legally hunt people in Pakistan if you have enough money.
Really?
That is not a joke.
That's just sad.
Is there under Sharia law? And if like I hate you, I'm gonna go to your family and work out a deal. And the deal could be a couple
pay him to beat someone else,
rupees, which is like less than $2,000. So I've heard of deals, many of deals where people were like, I hated this guy, so they're gonna forgive me. And if the victim's family members forgive you, then all is forgiven under Allah, and they'll let you out of prison literally that day. So if I hate you, I pay your family 100,000 rupees, which is less than $2,000, or at least at the time, and you forgive me, I'm out of jail, and that's it. I go on with my life. So you can hunt people in Pakistan if you have enough money.
Wow. With the idea, so can you do that like premeditated though? Like, I'm gonna go kill this person. Here's some money. They're like, yeah, you are forgiven right now. Go kill fucking Bob. Have fun. That's crazy.
It happens all the time. People hate you, so they start working out deals with your family. So you will get arrested, but you'll only spend a couple weeks in jail.
And you could pay that cop like 4 cents to get out, because his family will forgive you for being arrested. It's like such a great. That's insane to think that. That's like.
Yeah, that you can do that you can legally do that in Pakistan.
That's insane. So like, you think that'd be a great incentive to not be an asshole in Pakistan.
Right. Well, most people are poor in Pakistan. So.
Right. So it's like cheap to like, if you fuck up once, someone can be like, here's a 20 spot. I'm gonna kill your uncle. And they're like, kill my uncle. Go crazy, yo. I'm partying.
It's usually a bit more, but I mean, I guess you could if you had enough of their family that were like, fuck this guy, yeah, $20. Look at.
How crazy is that? That's insane. So so the attorneys that were visiting you, was that because you were American and they thought this was like going to be some great payday, or was it because they wanted the opportunity to like get their name out there, or what was your experience?
Oh, but mostly for money. It's mostly money. Like, I would learn later on. At the beginning, I knew nothing, so I was figuring it all out as I went. But I would learn later on that this is only a $400 case. That a narcotics case is only a $400 case. I mean, that's a little money in Pakistan. That's a ton of money. Sorry, that's a little money here, but that's a ton of money in Pakistan. So that's 24,000 rupees, because $1 was 60 rupees, and that's 24,000 rupees. That's a ridiculous amount of money. But these guys weren't asking for $400. They were asking for like 20,000, 30,000, 100,000. I had a lawyer walk up to me and say, I will represent you, but for $4 million. And I was like, you mean rupees? Which still would have been a ridiculous amount, because 24,000 rupees is what the idea amount is. This guy's asking for $4 million. And he looks at me and he goes, this is a death sentence case, my friend. Dollars. And I'm like, you take check? Like,
Holy shit.
For a long time, that stupid asshole thought he was my lawyer because I was just trolling him. I was like, I have the money.
So while you're sitting in Pakistan prison about to go on death row, you're fucking with their attorneys. Just find a way to entertain yourself. So what happened? Like, what's next? Like, at what point did you realize, okay, this being here a few hours is turning into a few days, and oh shit, I'm gonna be here for a minute?
The next morning I got brought to, this is the morning after I got arrested, I got brought to the magistrate, and they were working on physical remand and how many days they wanted. So the girl from the embassy was just there to observe, but she ended up talking to the judge. She spoke her due, and apparently the judge wanted, like, the prosecutor wanted 10 days to torture me, but she talked him down to 3 days. The judge went with it. So she narrowed my torture down from 10 days to 3 days. So that was very cool of her to do that.
What type of torture was on the table? Did you know like what they did for those crimes, or was it like they could go ham and just have like a crazy saw array of shit laid out?
Well, they had stuff, but they didn't have like stuff to pull out your fingernails or anything like that. But I was electrocuted. I was drowned. I was hung up like a punching bag and used as one. They loved beating the bottom of my feet. And then they would ask the questions during these, and that was basically the 4 rotations: hanging me up, beating me, beating the bottom of my feet, drowning me, and then electrocuting me. And it just went like that, and a course like that. Like, for these guys, it was a job. You know, this is their job. So they would stop and drink tea and have lunch, and then they would go back and torture me. And then they would bring me back to the custom lockup. that night. I tried to sleep, but then customs lockup had their own torturing for the other prisoners that were there. Like I was at the, it was weird because like all night long you hear screaming all night long because they're torturing different people all night long. So you don't get any sleep at all. And you hear just grown men screaming, crying like they're kids getting beat, and it sucks.
Was that like on was that on like a some sort of a schedule? Like they'd say, "Oh, your torture starts at 6 a.m. and it stops at 2 p.m." Or was there some? How did that work?
They would pick me up in a fucking taxi and bring me to another place to be tortured, and this other place was being used by other people, and it was in the basement, very dark basement. Like we parked outside this big government building, and it's funny, the building was built nice, but it was all dirt and rocks and trash all around it, and you saw other cars here and there, and then we went into like this dark basement corridor where there was no light except you could see the light on the other side of the building where there was another entrance, and then we go to the middle, which was like a square, or like a cross, and then in both directions, and all you hear is screaming, you hear electrocutions. And then they brought me into my own cell, which had its own little. I know it was like I went to a torture shop, and that's where they would do their physical remand on me.
That's fucking nuts, man. Did you black out at all?
No. Here's the fun thing about me is that I'm used to pain. I've been used to pain my whole life. So if anyone was built for what was all this bullshit that was happening to me, it was me. Now, it was literally like I was just getting beat the whole weekend by my parents. I mean, other than, you don't want to get drowned. You don't want to get electrocuted and beat up. But I was run over by a school bus when I was 8 years old. I've had 53 surgeries between the ages of 8 to 15. I know what pain is. People are like, oh, yeah, you know it. No, I know what pain is. I feel it to this very day. So the worst pain I've ever experienced was between 8 to 15 by far. And then I got used to it. I got absolutely used to pain. I had no choice. Like I would scream when I was a child in the middle of the night because I'd have all these like I guess stones. It'd feel like stones and broken glass in my stomach and in my kidneys and everything. Just going to the bathroom was a fucking task that I would scream in, and I started really inconveniencing my family and everyone else by this. And I learned to shut my fucking mouth because I didn't like inconveniencing other people. So here I was screaming inside in silence as a kid. And I had no choice to get used to it as I got older and older and older. Now, fighting was all I knew growing up. And by people who are like, I've been in more fights than anyone. I don't know one fucking person who's been in more fights than I have. Most of just up until my teenage years, because people would make fun of me for getting run over by the bus. They would call me pancake, and I had a mouth. I'm the youngest of 6 boys, and I always tried to fit in, so I would talk shit to everyone. And people don't like being talked shit to, especially older kids. But the thing about me is no matter how big you were, I was still going to bite you and make your day suck. So I'd fight almost all these bigger kids than me all through junior high and high school because that's all I did was get in fights. And then I was a football player. I was a wedge buster on kickoff. I would play on broken bones and still play. I never missed a football game because of an injury because fuck that. I was like, as long as I can still move, I'm still going to play. So here I am getting tortured, but for information I don't have. And yeah, it sucked, but it's not the worst pain I've ever felt. So like I said, if anyone can handle it, it was me. And it was, in a sixth sense, it was like God was up there just making fun of what he built. As far as like learning how to hold my breath, the show Fear Factor had just started like the previous year. And I was trying to get on Fear Factor. So because of watching that fucking show Fear Factor, I started learning how to hold my breath because they did a lot of stuff with water. And like literally like the October or November before I was arrested, I only had started practicing holding my breath when I would be at a stoplight, in the shower, before I went to bed. And I got it to where I could easily hold my breath almost 3 minutes. Now here's these guys holding me under for about a minute. And of course I'm acting like it's tough because I don't want them to really push the envelope. But here it was fucking easy. I'm thinking to myself, what are the odds that I learned how to hold my breath a couple months ago, and these dickheads are trying to drown me right now for information I don't even have?
So how long did that go on for?
3 days. 3 days.
3 days.
3 days.
And then after the 3 days, were you under the impression you were just going to get out of there, or what was next?
I was told I was going to be brought to the prison, And here at this point, I'm still thinking like they're gonna arrest Ray, they're gonna arrest him, they're gonna say he's the real drug smuggler. They're gonna see that I'm innocent. Everyone's gonna come forward, so I just got to be patient. But it wasn't until the first day in prison that I realized I was going to be there for some time, because up until that point, I thought they're going to bring me out at any moment and I'll be going home, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I was still very hopeful. But the first day in prison, the only thing I knew about jail was what I'd seen on the show Oz. And if you go in weak, you're going to be someone's bitch. And I was like, I'm not going to be anyone's bitch. I'm only going to be here a couple days max. So let's make a statement. And these assholes all knew I was coming because the newspapers were having a field day. Like, I was on the front page of every Pakistani newspaper. So normally when you get brought into this prison, it's the biggest prison of all of Pakistan. It's called Central Jail Adiala. Normally there would be several prisoners that get released into the prison, and then there's these assholes called number guards. Number guards are basically douchebag prisoners who do the guards' dirty work, and in exchange they get like extra privileges, extra food. They get to shake down all the incoming prisoners for new stuff they like: watches, money, sandals, jackets, clothes, whatever. But I didn't get the luxury of going into jail with a bunch of other guys at the same time. They let me go in by myself. And I was like, open the fucking gate. Because the guy was trying to make fun of me that I was about to fight. And I was like, just open the fucking gate. And I went through I treated this shit like kickoff. I thought, all right, I'm going to go through them. I'm going to turn it into one-on-one so they can't surround me. And it was literally like I hopped the fence at a junior high school and just went to war on the playground. And I mean, if I'd known then what I know now, I would have handled it a lot differently. I would have been a lot nicer. I would have been, hey guys, how you doing? Let's go grab some lunch and talk this out. Tell you all the stories you want to hear. But I went in swinging.
With just a bunch of guys that were ready to just jack you as soon as you walked in prison.
Because they horseshoe before, but I went through them so that they couldn't surround me, and then they kept trying to catch. And these dumb shits are wearing dresses and they got beards, so you just pull them down and. You know, they're dressed.
Jeez, taking advantage of the religious garbs. So okay, man. So that's crazy. So you're in this prison, and then what did they finally come? They come in and tell you like, hey, you're gonna be here for a minute, settle in. How did that work?
I got brought to after I fought these dickheads and some little guy like this guy Mashakti's a prison worker. He was like 4'10", 4'11", little guy, but he's like la la la, and he comes and grabs my wrist to follow him. So I follow this little guy to the furthest part of this huge prison. They put me in the processing barrack, and in the processing barrack, oh my god, I was tired from the days before. I hadn't eaten, I hadn't slept. I got my ass kicked there, man. There was too many fucking prisoners. I threw a guy off a balcony. Who was on my back. There was a crowd below, so he went crowd surfing. But the guards said, all right, we better get in on this. And the guards baton charged. They got all the prisoners off me. They beat the shit out of me with their batons, and they dragged me to Kasuri. Kasuri is a place, it's a punishment cell inside prison. And I would spend my first 5 days there, but they did bring me out later on that first day to go meet with, again, Christy from the embassy and some douchebag dude who was trying to hook up with her that she wasn't having, but he was just there to like try to hang out with her. And this is where she says, look, your next court date is in 2 weeks. And the 2 weeks was March 2nd. I don't know. I'm remembering March 2nd. So here I was like, 2 weeks to fucking go to court? Like, this is ridiculous. That was the real wake up call, was that I wasn't going to be allowed to go back to court for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And then they brought me back to Kasuri, and I spent my first 5 days in Kasuri. And Kasuri, man, Kasuri is where you get to think about all your childhood and all the things you regret in life, and because you're just in a box. It's a dark box. There's no
What was the prison cell like?
Kasuri was the size of a closet, and so you can't really like stretch out. And there's a hole in the corner that you fill with your foot, or you see when the door is opened that you do your bathroom stuff in. It's cockroach infested. It's mosquito and fly infested. Ants.
It's probably hot as hell in there too. I'd imagine they're not air conditioned.
February, so it was still cold.
Okay.
And the only time you see light is when they feed you once a day from bucket of dal and one roti. And then also when they bring you out to beat your feet, when it's your time to have your feet beaten. So I would spend a total of 132 days in that room of my total of 3 years in jail in Pakistan. The longest I spent in that room in a row was 8 weeks.
Wow, that's crazy, man. So how long were you there in totality?
I was there 2 years, 10 days. Sorry, 2 years, 10 months, 15 days, just under 3 years.
At some point, did you ever resign to the fact that you're going to probably die in this prison, or did you think that there was still always as a continued court date that you were going to get out at some juncture?
Well, no, well, I always had it in me to get out of there. I wasn't just sitting there and feeling sorry for myself. I was always learning the language. I was working on my own cases. I was working on everyone else's cases. I learned the language. I learned several languages in prison. I learned how to read, write Urdu and Arabic. I became a teacher in jail. I had a garden. I had a water well brought in. I fixed up all the cells around me. I made it a home. I had a good life in jail. I became the guy you came to when you needed something. If you needed a cell phone, if you needed food, if you needed protection, you came to me. All the guards were working for me by the time I left that place. I was running poker games in prison that I learned how to play on death row. I got put on death row after the 5 days of Kasori, and I would be there for 9.5 months before a new superintendent came into the prison, and he couldn't put me in general population. So there was a 5,000 rupee bounty on my head, and everyone was trying to collect it. So I kept getting stabbed. I kept getting in fights. And so they put me in a 2-cell, which was like an upper class part of the prison, which is for people who were there for corruption, NAB, National Accountability Bureau, like politicians who had been arrested, and they put me with them. So I was with the future prime minister of Pakistan, the future president of Pakistan, and it was there that I was able to, have a life, have a garden, host poker games, host lunches and dinners.
Is it just like a big community, like open, or is it everyone has their own cells? How do you host like a poker game and have a garden? That sounds like a nicer than the average person would think of a Pakistani prison.
Well, most prisons are like indoors, and what you see is just Pakistan. This is the biggest prison of all of Pakistan. It was a prison built in '86, meant to house only 1,800 prisoners, but there's over 6,000 prisoners there. There's a hospital there. There's a women's prison there. There's a children's prison there. There's several barracks. There's a mosque. There's a shop where they built furniture, like for prisoners who worked. There was schools. There was farms. I mean, this is a huge place. It's literally a world inside a world.
Wow.
And the prisoners run the place. It's the guards are there for like, all right, we'll tell you what to do. But honestly, man, the guards are outmatched if and when the prisoners had enough, and the prisoners would have enough all the time. The only thing that kept the prisoners in check was the huge walls. So we got a train coming by me. I don't know if that's gonna be too bad.
No, I can hear you. Go ahead. You're good.
Are the huge walls around the prison, and the guards would just all retreat back to the prison whenever things bad would happen, hence like riots and fights and fires. And the guards would basically let everyone get it out of their system.
So at what point did you find out that there was light at the end of the tunnel?
Well, after 11.5 months of going back and forth to court, I was offered a deal: plead guilty, pay the judge $1,000, plead guilty, you'll get a 2-year prison sentence, and you'll be able to go home in a couple months with remissions. And I was like, but I got to plead guilty. I'm not pleading guilty. And I was torn about whether or not I wanted to plead guilty or not, because I was like, they had taken everything from me. I didn't do this. By this time, the guy who had set me up had already been arrested. He went on his business as normal, and he had some Swedish woman that he had hired was arrested in Glendale in California, but her story matched mine and several others. And because of that, she wasn't charged. She was sent back to her country without being charged. He was arrested, denied bail. He signed an affidavit stating, look, my job was to hire idiots like Eric to work for me who didn't know what it was they were being used to smuggle. So he admitted that, hey, I didn't know. And then unfortunately for me, the courts looked at it as that's just one drug smuggler helping another drug smuggler. Bottom line, because he wasn't there, I was told I had to go through the legal system there. And the legal system there is, I was looking at life in prison and death in prison. I mean, hell, they had me on death row because they felt, well, that's probably where he's going to be, but he's also the safest place for him to be. So this deal got presented to me, and the deal was basically that this is a great thing so that he can go home and he'll be out of here soon. But they expected me to plead guilty. That's where it didn't work out, because I wasn't going to plead guilty for a crime I didn't commit. Mm-hmm. And this little Pakistani interpreter from the embassy was like, "What do you care, Eric? It's Pakistan. What's worth more to you, your pride or your freedom?" And it was literally that statement that took any doubt out of my head that I was ever going to plead guilty. Like, I was like, the second he said that, I was like, "You little bastard," because I knew me. I knew I was not going to plead guilty for a crime I didn't commit. So I refused to plead guilty. And when I told the judge I wasn't going to plead guilty, he postponed my case for another 2 days to like have people talk sense into me. And he wanted his money too, obviously. But when the 2 days came back, he's like, "Are you ready to change your plea?" And I was like, "Nope." And he's like, "All right, well, prosecution's proven its case against you." I'm like, "Yep." And then he goes, "I'm sentencing you to 7 years." I was like, "Fuck,"
Oh,
because that's a harsh fucking penalty for compared to everyone else. Like, this one douchebag had 5 tons of heroin and he only got 5 years. And then like all these other people, like, it should have been 2 or 3 years. And the guy
were they Pakistani or were they Americans that got charged with that stuff?
Both. No Americans. I'm the only American.
So do you think you got more time because you were American and they want to set an example?
Well, no, they got more time because I refused to plead guilty, okay, and because I didn't bribe him. Like, you with the bribes, you can't. With the bribes, you have to plead guilty. I mean, he originally wanted $125,000 for my acquittal, and that's $125,000 US, not rupees. I didn't have that kind of money. Right. But then that's why it took so long. So the money would go down lower and lower and lower and lower and lower until finally they're like, "All right, we'll just $1,000. That's 60,000 rupees. He pleads guilty. I give him 2 years. And then that's how it's gonna be." I'm like, "I'm not pleading guilty." He's like, "Fuck you, 7 years." And then I yelled at him in the court because I said, he's like, "You want me to add on?" I was like, "No, I want you to take off." And so then he gave me another 3 months, which I was like, "Oh, 3 months." But I was happy when he gave me 7 years too. I was pissed, but I was also happy because he could have given me death. He could have given me life. I'd always set myself mentally up for high court, though. I knew lower court was going to fuck me. So I'd always set my sights up for higher court. The Pakistani legal system is a joke. It's a fucking joke. I had to jump through so many hoops. I had to become a lawyer in Pakistan, work on my own case. I had to deal with so many douchebag other lawyers that were trying to just screw me over. If you guys watch the documentary, 3 Years in Pakistan, the Erik Audé story, you'll see how nonsense it is. It wasn't just me sitting in jail and hoping for the best. I had to do a lot of shit to get myself out of prison. But I learned, like you said, I learned how to play poker.
Who taught you how to play poker in prison? How did you pick that up?
My boy Murad, poker was popular in jail. They wanted, they had cards. If you had cards, you had games, and poker was one of the more popular games. Obviously chess, but not everyone knew how to play chess. My boy Murad, who was on death row, taught me how to play poker, and it's because of him to this very day I make a living playing poker.
So, like, did you get that good in playing in prison, or did you continue like learning outside of that, or where did you decide, man, this is a skill I'm going to carry forward?
I got great in jail. Because you're learning how to read people's tells and their emotions. Being scared is universal. Being happy and excited is universal. So I started learning how to read people, regardless of what their languages were. And then it wasn't until I got out of prison and went to a casino and ran it up like it was nothing. I was like, whoa! I had no idea how good I was until I got out of jail and went to my first casino. Because in jail, we play every fucking day. So when you play every day, you're gonna get good at something.
So yeah, and this kind of brings us back to how I initially met you. I think I initially met you because you were doing a charity tournament in Hollywood. How did you get from going, I'm going to play poker, make a few bucks at a casino, to getting this who's list of celebrities to come to these events? And you'd regularly see celebrities at Erik's house playing poker, and it's a very sociable thing. How did you get into that aspect of it?
Well, when I got out of jail, to get back on my feet. I obviously wanted to get back into acting and stunts, but the work's never full time. So I had to, fill my time up with other things. And one of the jobs I got was I became a bouncer in Hollywood. And I was running, some of the hardest nights in there because I was working for this promotion called Go Group and King of Things. I was the only white guy on staff, but my job was to filter the crowd out. And so when people showed up, they were pissed off at me because I was like, hey, don't even bother giving your keys to valet because you're out of dress code. But I tell you what, if you go home, you get a nice button-up shirt, nice pants, nice shoes. Think 8th grade prom. You come back, I'll let you in the front of the line. You look like a G. And they'll be like, okay, that's what's up. So I showed everyone respect, but if I didn't get in 4 fights a night, it was a slow fucking night. But on these nights, also, I was promoting my own poker games, and I would meet people there and all the time. Hey, you play poker? And I'd get numbers and text, and it was there I met like Kevin Hart and all these celebrities that were like coming to our clubs, and I was asking if they always played poker. And sure enough, people played poker, and I just was very sociable, and I invited them to all these events, and they started showing up to my house. And the more people that got to know me, the more players that came to my house. It was just, meeting people over time and being willing to put myself out there and go and say hello and, see if they.
I think the most prolific poker game in LA was Molly's game. Did that coincide with yours? Where was that in terms of timeline?
I used to run those games. I used to help. It was not Molly's game. She was the host. And then like all these other people would come together and bring players. I was one of the people that would bring players. I was also a dealer at those games.
There's Toby Maguire played in those a lot, right?
Yeah, I took a lot of money off of Toby, and I was never allowed back because of it.
Yeah, Toby was really the guy kind of behind those games, wasn't it? Like he was kind of setting those up to fleece people. I heard he was pretty solid too.
He's a good player, but I mean, if you watch him play all the time, you know all his tells. He's a good player. He's a really good player, but I mean, I took a lot of money off the guy, and then I was never invited back.
So after those games, because those games I don't think got raided or closed down. I forget what happened, but then so you started having all these tournaments at your house, and then now you're living in Georgia. How did that happen? Where does that gap come in?
Well, I mean, I was running games up until March 12th of last year, and then the stupid pandemic hit, so no one was allowed. We shut the games down because we were scared too, but also neighbors would call the cops on us if we let people over at our house, and all the cars out front would they would see that. So I took the games online, and I've been playing every day online since. And I'm running a game shortly here.
Do you have to stay by the cell phone tower to get reception to run the game? Are you like, is it a little bit better if you're not all the way up there?
No, as long as I can get a little bit of reception to start the game. Everyone's like in my group now is pretty trustworthy because they know if they don't pay me, I'll just kick them out of the group. But then they screw themselves up because there's a lot of clubs out there that don't pay their players, and I pay. So
ones.
People know I'm honest. Like I heard during the height of the pandemic, there was this club that was had like $100,000 guarantee, and they got somehow, I don't know how they did it, but they got like $300,000+, and then all the winners just didn't get paid.
Jeez, they just went, you know what? I got a better place to put this money than back into this game. Fuck this, I'm done. Peace.
I don't have the.
Yeah, you know what a great business model would be with that money? You go buy a bunch of leather jackets in Pakistan, Eric. You want to go? Yeah, that's a blanket no from now on.
I keep my games small and friendly, but at least everyone knows that they're going to get paid in my games. I'm not going to run off with the money. And the great, playing games online now is I mean, I miss live poker. I really do.
You haven't been back in a casino?
I went back to the casino once on a drive cross country in Mississippi in Balak, and my luck is fish. Like the first hand I played, I had the nuts. A guy got runner boat on me, and then they wouldn't let me rebuy into the tournament because of COVID. They're like, "Oh, we're maxed out at 50." So then the very next day, I stayed there the night, and then I played again, and I had nut flush, and this once again, runner boat. And they wouldn't let me buy back in. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stick with that right now.
Yeah, you'd think you'd use all your run bet up in that stretch you did in Pakistan. Like you're entitled to getting just hitting all the one-outers you should have to for the rest of your life, So, oh man, that's crazy. So what social media sites are you on the most if people want to pick your brain more or get more references for stuff that they can go check out of yours?
They can go on Instagram. There's also a link to my movie 3 Years in Pakistan, the Erik Audé story. I mean, there's all kinds of stories. I could go on forever, but
so the links are on your Instagram for is it the one that I know is a scripted movie. Which how come you didn't get to play yourself in that or did you have a big role in it? I didn't get to see it.
No. You should watch it. It's not a scripted movie. I mean, there's a
it's a documentary. Oh, okay, gotcha. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I had to do a different documentary because Locked Up Abroad just fucked me. They only took the exciting stuff.
I saw that. Yeah.
They showed that, but the problem with that exciting stuff is it leaves out everything that led me up to that point. Sure. So that episode is the most popular episode they've had. It's been viewed over 1 billion times in every country and every language. I mean, because National Geographic worldwide. And I just got so much hate on the internet because of that episode. So I had to do another documentary that explains my whole story from beginning to end. And now people who watched Locked Up Abroad and hated me, who have taken the time to watch 3 Years in Pakistan, have come back to me and been like, look, man, I didn't know all that other stuff. Now it makes sense. I'm sorry. So I always promote 3 Years in Pakistan. I don't promote Locked Up Abroad. And then people who take the time to watch 3 Years in Pakistan will know a lot more of my story. And if anything, it'll make you feel better about your own life. My movie is being done now, though. Zero Gravity, who has taken it on. They're the ones who've done all Liam Neeson's movies. And Miles Teller is actually in talks of playing me.
Oh, cool.
So I don't want to jinx that. He's the one that's front runner to play me.
Well, good luck with that, man. That'd be freaking awesome if that's the case. And everyone can say, hey, we saw and know that story here first. You know, you got to get to write a book about you, man, is Ben Mesrich. He just wrote a book about my buddy Charlie Shrem and did Bitcoin Billionaires. Everything Ben does, social network, gets turned into a book. Have you ever reached out to Ben? It's such a compelling story of yours.
Why, I wrote a book. I just don't know how to publish it.
Yeah, and self-publishing is tough, man. But well, that's fantastic, bro. So check out 3 Years in Pakistan. You said it's on Amazon, right? Or on Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime, iTunes, Vimeo, YouTube Red. It's on like 30 different platforms. You can find it.
Easy to find.
Good for you.
Stuff. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it, brother. Well, next time you make it a little further south, give me a holler. It was great catching up with you, man. And thanks for the info.
All right, Jason. Thanks for taking time, buddy. It's good to see you again.
You too, brother. Take it easy.